My name is Tessa Nuchols. I'm the herbarium assistant, and I am helping to oversee the ETSU collection being added to our UT collection here in Knoxville. So first off, let's start off with a little bit of history about the ETSU collection. So the ETSU collection is actually named after John C. Warden, and he was actually an assistant professor who worked at the herbarium from 1966 till 1997 when he retired. And during this time, he helped identify around 800 specimens, and he also himself collected about 1,400 specimens. And so, a little more information about the ETSU collection currently, where it is. We have roughly about 36,000 specimens are you're all helping us transcribe here. And of those 36, only 16% of the specimens have been georeferenced, which is basically when we go in and add longitudinal and latitudinal coordinates for people to see, where these specimens have been collected from, years from like we have some from the 1800s till present. And so they're very important for research. And so, a kind of part of our workflow currently is we are having to check these records that we are transcribing today. Some of them were actually photographed and databased, but not all of the collection was. So, we're actually having to go through that now. I'll explain some of that. So first off, we have to check records, and that's basically just seeing if, scanning the barcode, seeing if their images are uploaded to the Cernic website, and if it has that skeletal data that you are transcribing. So actually here in this photo is Seth, who is one of our technicians, and he is actually photographing some specimens that weren't uploaded onto Cernic. And so this white box right here is actually the photo box that we use that has a bunch of lights inside that give the perfect light on the specimen for our high resolution cameras to actually, take the photos of. So right up here. And so once that is done, what Seth does is he takes this barcode scanner right here, scans that barcode, and it actually associates the barcode with the image. So when we upload them online, the image is merged correctly and we don't have to worry about any issues. So then from there, we have to repair some of the specimens. So sometimes when we remove the specimens from the boxes that they were sent to us in, sometimes they pop loose of the mounted sheet that they're on, or there's just some leaves or stems that just need to be re-glued back on for them to be secure for future use. So actually in this photo is Alexis, and she is one of our technicians, and she is actually repairing an ETSU specimen. So you can actually see this big bottle of glue here is the plant glue we use. And this one right here is the paper glue that we use. And everything has to be acid free so they don't interact with the specimens themselves. And so after she gets done repairing this specimen, what she'll do is she'll actually go up here and stack them using little blocks to keep them from touching one another. That way, when they dry, they're perfect and we don't have to accidentally worry about them sticking and us having to break or cause any damage to those specimens. So then after they're checked and repaired, they then are stamped. So right here is Cruz, who is one of our technicians, and he has actually gone through and stamped, and you can see that little stamp that's right here is our herbarium stamp in the bottom corner of the specimen. And then after he stamps those, he actually uses this book right here, which is the Delis Tormes Arms, which is basically a book that has all the list of genuses that we know, and they associate a number with them for us to use when we start to file them. So after he gets done stamping a number of these, they go into our collection, where in this photo right here, Emma is actually filing the specimens. So you can actually see some here that she's getting ready to work on. And so basically what she has to do is take those specimens that have been stamped and numbered, find the number within our collection, then find which everything's organized by ABC order of species. So then once she finds that species, she has to find the folder, which for like the Tennessee is then organized by county. And this is very important that we know exactly where the specimens are and they're filed correctly, because if not, then there's the possibility that we may never find that specimen again and we just may come across it in the future. So it's very important we file these correctly. Otherwise, they'll just be databased and we can never find them. So, a part of the ETSU collection, they have several like specialized collections that were done, and one of which was actually Roan Mountain. So, Roan Mountain, as you can see in this little map up here, is right here. This little orange star is Knoxville, where we are. And then up here, this star right here is Carter County, and you can actually see Roan Mountain State Park. And Roan Mountain is part of, Carter, Tennessee, and it also spans part of Mitchell, North Carolina, and Avery, North Carolina. And so this image right here is really great because this green area right here shows you the ridge line, which is home to some very important ecosystems and rare species. So let me explain a little more. So you might be wondering, well, why is this collection so important? Well, like I said, they're home to very important and threatened ecosystems. So you can actually see right here is a spruce fir, a forest that is home to very rare and endemic species. And then right here is also shows you the photos of a ridge line in Roan Mountain. So this is part of a lot of times the bald areas, which is where many rare grasses or sedges grow. And then right here, we also have an image of the rhododendrons that are actually found up in Roan Mountain. So like I said, they have those rare endemic species and everything. So like which I'll have some photos here for you all to see specific specimens that we have. But if you're interested in Roan Mountain, which I'm very interested after learning about this collection, they actually have a rhododendron festival in June from the 21st to the 22nd. And I actually plan on going with my family because they're going to have crafts, foods, but you can also see the amazing species that they have there in bloom. And so so with the Roan Mountain collection, we have a very specialized collection, and that has about 1,400 specimens that were collected, ranging from the 1930s to 2022. And within this collection, we have some areas that are like the grassy bald and the Roan Jane areas that are home to rare species of grasses, of flowering plants, or trees. And two of the people who helped create this specialized collection was Frosty Levi, he collected about 700 specimens, and Jamie Donaldson, who collected around 400 specimens. And both of these gentlemen actually worked at ETSU as assistant professors or working at the herbarium themselves. And so they actually created a large collection, and Garrett will actually explain a little bit of that later. And so some examples of those plants I was talking about is you can see right here, they both look like grasses, but they are in fact not both grasses. This first one is called the mountain oat grass. And so one way you can kind of tell those grasses is if you kind of touch their stem and squeeze, is grasses are round with hollow tubes. And this one right here is called the Pennsylvania sedge. And so one way to remember the difference is sedges have edges. So if you were to actually touch this specimen and roll the stem between your fingers, you would actually notice that it has corners and edges on them, which is amazing. And so both of these are kind of rare endemic species to the Roan Mountain area. But if you're not as fascinated with grasses as Garrett is, so here are some flowering plants that you can actually see at Roan Mountain. So this first one is a purple rhododendron, which can be found at the Roan Mountain, and the festival is actually named after them. And they're very large, beautiful flowers that you can see. And I highly recommend you go to Roan Mountain and actually see these. And this next one, which I'm a lily girl, so I love this is the Gray's lily or Roan lily. And they are very red, vibrant colored. And so they're actually part of the rare species. And funny enough, this specimen right here has in the notes that it was taken from a hiker because it's a state park and it's a rare species. You can't pick it. So if you do go up to Roan Mountain, please don't pick the flowers. And so here's a map of that I can explain more about that georeferencing I referred to earlier. So every one of these little dots right here represents one specimen that was collected either from the 1930s all the way to present day. And so these little stars just represent some of the areas that had the most collections. And as you can tell, of course, the visitor center and the Miller farmstead is the most collected because they're open to the public and more easily accessible. And so this is great for research because this show we can look up specific like rare species that were collected, and we can also see the areas that weren't really collected that we might go in the future collection trip and actually go collect those and see if the species are growing more or if some species are actually disappearing in some areas. So I highly recommend visiting Roan Mountain. I definitely plan to this summer. And so I just wanted to thank everyone, for coming today. The UT Herbarium, all the technicians helping us get this collection put in, ETSU for giving us this collection, the WeDigBio for, allowing us to broadcast this and have you all transcribe with us. Definitely with everyone here, because as you pay your taxes, you are actually helping to pay for scientific research. So I just want to thank you all. And if you have any questions, I'm open to hear them.